So I wanted to just do a very quick vlog about the Oscars, which are happening tonight, and I didn't want to do anything too formal, just something very off the cuff, because unlike a lot of people, I do think that the Oscars are quite important. They have a lot of cultural value that means that the films they promote get a lot more attention, and I think that's really the main reason why they're important. I think they do have a lot of problems that a lot of people bring up, but last year when Paul Thomas Anderson's Phantom Thread was nominated, he said that the reason that he considered the Oscars to be important was because they allowed his film to run in cinemas for much longer than it would have otherwise, and I think that is where a lot of their value lies. So I just want to go through the films that have been nominated this year, say my thoughts on them, who I think should win, who I think will win, and hopefully explain why I think this is such a bad year for the Oscars. I really think there are only two films in here where I'd be probably happy if they won. Maybe three films maximum. But let's just go through them in alphabetical order and just give my thoughts on a few of them. So the first is A Star Is Born, which is sort of solid. Obviously it's a remake of, it's the second or third remake of the story. It starts off really good. The first half hour or so is extremely strong, leading up to the sequence with the song Shallow. I think that's all great. I think after that it falls off the rails a little bit. There are good bits, but definitely the first half hour is where it's strongest. Bradley Cooper is a really great actor. As a director, not so much, which is why I think he wasn't nominated. And Lady Gaga is an amazing singer, but as an actress, she's all right. She's not perfect. I think a lot of the tone I was seeing a lot was surprisingly good, rather than just good on her own terms, which I think is quite indicative. But this is really sort of Bradley Cooper's film, and Bradley Cooper's character's film. Lady Gaga's character is kind of sidelined, which is a bit of a shame. There are a lot of things that I think could have been more interesting if the film had focused more on her. Sort of her rise to pop star fame is viewed very much through Bradley Cooper's character's eyes and never really given a chance to be viewed through her eyes. And I think that diminishes a lot of that film's impact. But I wouldn't be too surprised if it won. But I don't think I particularly wanted to. I think it's too messy to be the best picture of the year. Moving on, Black Klansman. This is the start of, I think there are three films on the list that sort of tackle race and racism, and quite a few of them do it in a sort of messy way. Black Klansman included. I don't know if you've read Boots Riley's criticisms of this film and the way it portrays race, but I think they're very good. I think they're very interesting. He makes a lot of really good points about how maybe this wasn't the film that we needed right now, in terms of how it handles police brutality and the police's sort of race relations. I enjoyed it. I think it's a really good film. Again, it starts off a lot stronger than it ends. The last scene especially is very on the nose. But even before that very last, like, sort of documentary style scene, there are a couple scenes that really don't work. There's one where, so all of the police, so the main character works in a police station and he's the only black policeman there, and in the first bit of the film it feels very uncomfortable for him, but then by the time you get to the end, basically racism in the police force has been concentrated into one single character who gets fired, and then everything just seems to be sort of sorted, and it's very easy. The way the KKK are portrayed, the film at the beginning says, these aren't idiots, these aren't people that, can be just dismissed as a, group of fools, but then by the end they literally are like a Scooby-Doo villain, like blowing themselves up, and that just didn't ring true to me. It feels too easy. So I think it's funny, I think it's witty, I think it's well made, I think it's really well edited, but I don't does and what it tries to do. I'd recommend watching it, but I think watch it with a critical eye, read these criticisms of it, make sure you view it in its context. Next, Black Panther. I think it's very strange that this film got nominated. I can see why though. Last year, the Oscars nominated a lot of great films, but not a lot of blockbuster films, and they got their lowest ratings in years. And I think by nominating films like Black Panther and Bohemian Rhapsody, they're trying to pander to a more blockbustery audience. I think what's even stranger though is that this year is so bad for Oscar-nominated films that Black Panther is by no means the worst film. It's got all the problems of a normal Marvel movie in that it goes on too long, the final fight scene is boring, but the world building is great, the villain is great. There's a lot to like about it. There's a lot more to like about it than a lot of Marvel films. I think I enjoyed it more than Infinity War. I do feel a little bit like the way I see the Oscars and the value of the Oscars is their ability to promote films that maybe didn't get the promotion they otherwise deserved. Black Panther had a huge cultural impact already. I think if they'd given this spot for a sort of strange black sci-fi film to something like Sorry to Bother You, I think I would have been a lot happier with it, because I feel like if Black Panther won, that wouldn't increase its audience much more, and it would probably just make the film even more divisive, which I don't think it needs. But it's a good film, and I'm happy that it's nominated. I think it's a good thing that it's nominated. I think it raises interesting questions about whether the Oscars are nominating films that are, well, you can't say objectively good, but are for their quality or for their cultural impact. And this is definitely one that I feel has been nominated for its cultural impact, but that was important, and I don't think that should be diminished. Next, Bohemian Rhapsody. Yeah, so I'm really amazed that anyone is complaining about Black Panther being nominated when this was nominated, because this is an actually really bad film. It's a sort of boilerplate rock music biopic, but it directed by a guy who is allegedly a paedophile, or not even allegedly now, I'm not sure, and edited by, I can't believe this is nominated for Best Editing. The person who edited this must have thought that the Oscar was for most editing rather than Best Editing, because it's crazy. Like, it's one of the only films that made me feel sick watching people sit down for lunch, because it cuts like a Michael Bay film, just people sitting down, everyone's reaction shots has to be shown, really messy. I didn't think Rami Malek was that great. It's obviously not his fault. The script is terrible. The direction was terrible. But I didn't think he saved the film like a lot of people did. I don't know much about Freddie Mercury, but I also hear that this glosses over a lot of important information about his life, simplifies it way too much, which I can believe. I do think that I'd be better served just listening to A Night at the Opera on Spotify and reading through the Wikipedia page for Queen. It's that bad. Also, yeah, Mike Myers came out of like semi-retirement to do a Wayne's World joke for this, which was just bizarre. Green Book, yeah, I enjoyed this. It's very standard fare, like not Oscar-worthy at all. It's just kind of boring as a film, but enjoyable fluff, enjoyable sort of road movie stuff. I think in terms of its portrayal of race and racism, again, there's been a lot of discussion about this. I think it's just too easy in the film. Everything is just glossed over too easily. There's a scene near the end where there's a scene in the beginning where they get stopped by a cop, and it's very like they get put in prison just for basically not doing anything, which feels very like realistic. And then there's another scene near the end where they get stopped by a cop, and he just helps them out, and he's like, oh, let me help you change your tire or whatever, I can't quite remember. And that just feels like unnecessary, as if it's saying, but from the beginning of the film to the end of the film, all racism has been solved, not just between these two main characters. Mashallah Ali is very good. Viggo Mortensen is also pretty good, but he's so stereotypically Italian. It's kind of like he's auditioning for a role in the new Mario movie, which I found quite funny. But they're both good. It's enjoyable, but it's very standard and quite boring, and I would be kind of shocked if it won. Roma, I really liked Roma. The cinematography is gorgeous. The way the camera moves is beautiful. The crowd scenes and the group scenes are actually stunning. But in terms of its relation to its main character, I felt it was a little bit too distant. So the whole film is based on Alfonso Cuarón's memory of his childhood, and he emphasises with the main character struggle quite a lot, and shows all the sort of horrible stuff she went through. But because he's basically looking at someone else's life through the lens of his own memories, it feels quite distant, and it feels quite strange trying to emphasize and trying to empathise with this character. There is distance there. It's a film with the right frame of mind in terms of him trying to recontextualise his memories and look at someone who's important to him in his childhood through the lens of what they must have been going through in their own life. But the main character just ends up feeling sometimes like a small part in the big picture of the director's memories rather than the main part of it, which I think is disappointing. So even though I'd be really happy if this won, I think I have my own personal reservations about it. The favourite, however, this is my favourite on the list. This is the one I really hope wins. It's really weird, it's really funny. It's not my personal favourite Yorgos Lanthimos film. That's probably going to be Killing of a Sacred Deer, because when he writes his own films, I feel like he could really let loose all the strange shit that's going on in his head. But this is probably the only one of his films that could win an Oscar, and I hope it does, because I do think it's really good. The script itself is really funny and sharp, but the direction is the thing that elevates it to something special, and I hope it wins. Also, the main three, Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone, Olivia Colman, perfect. Brilliant performances, best of the year, sure. Finally, Vice, which I thought was a real disappointment. I loved Adam McKay's The Big Short. I thought that should have won Best Picture in the year that it came out. Both films are kind of patronising to the audience in how they try and explain a really complex topic more simply. But The Big Short was sort of patronising by saying, look, you didn't realise it at all, but this is what all these dickheads have been doing to fuck you over. Whereas Vice feels very accusatorial to its audience, which is a strange way to go. And it feels more accusatorial to its audience than it does to Dick Cheney, which is its subject, which I think is kind of strange. The editing is awful as well, all over the place. There's literally a bit where the narrator says Dick Cheney was booted out of college, and it cuts to a picture of a boot, and I was like, oh, this is properly bad. Christian Bale is really fantastic in the role, but his performance is chopped up too much by the editing that I feel like you can't appreciate it as much as you could have otherwise, and that's a real shame. I mean, the editing does just feel like a parody of The Big Short. It's everything The Big Short did, cranked up to 100, and it doesn't work in the film's favour. I think this is a bit of a conspiracy theory, but I think this was nominated before the reviews came out, and I think that might be a reason why this has been nominated when actually I think it feels like an important film, it feels like a film that critics might like, but they didn't, quite rightly, and for that I think it was nominated, but it definitely won't win. I'm just going to quickly do one last thing, which I'm going to go through all of the awards and give a very quick opinion on them, or all of the ones to see that very soon, but I haven't seen enough of them to have an opinion on it. Actor in a leading role, I think it's a toss-up for me between Christian Bale and Bradley Cooper, but I think Bradley Cooper should get it. He is really good. Willem Dafoe, I haven't seen At Eternity's Gate yet, it hasn't come out in the UK, but I'm really looking forward to that. I've heard good things about him in that. Actor in a supporting role, either Richard E. Grant or Mahershala Ali, really good, but probably Richard E. Grant edging that out for me. Actress in a leading role, Olivia Colman, The Favourite, definitely. She was stunning in that. Actress in a supporting role, probably Rachel Weisz. Emma Stone was also really good, but I think Rachel Weisz was just a little bit better. Animated feature film, Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse, definitely, absolutely. The rest, I thought were all mediocre. Cinematography, probably Roma, although I need to see Cold War, which I've heard is also beautifully shot. Directing, The Favourite, I think. Film editing, Black Klansman. I can't believe Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated for this. I can't believe Vice was nominated for this. If anything other than Black Klansman wins, I'll be really surprised and kind of appalled. Foreign language film, Shoplifters, definitely. I think this is my favourite Koreeda film that I've seen so far. I think it's really good. Music, original score, I haven't seen If Beale Street Could Talk yet, but I have listened to some of the music which was done by Nicholas Brittle, who also did the score for Succession, which is my favourite TV show of 2018, and it's a really beautiful score. Other than that, Isle of Dogs, as much as I hated the film, I did think the soundtrack was really good. Original song, definitely Shallow. Best Picture again, favourite. Production design, First Man, I think, and same with the two sound. I don't know the difference between sound editing and sound mixing, but definitely First Man had fantastic sound design, fantastic production design. I wasn't too keen on the story, but definitely that clinched it for me. Visual effects again, First Man. Writing, adapted screenplay. I wonder what the Ballad of Buster Scruggs is based on to be adapted. But that, I think. I think that should win. And original screenplay, First Reformed. It's shocking to me that this is the only category that First Reformed was nominated in. It's not nominated for Best Picture. Ethan Hawke isn't nominated for Best Actor. Blows me away. Incredible. I have no idea what to say about that, but it should win something, and I think it should win original screenplay.